even zone dropping in coverage. Like, I did not realize that he was that good as a zone dropper, but he was one of the best coverage linebackers too, which really took me by surprise. There is nothing that he is not one of the 3 to 4 best linebackers at in all of football, and they got him at a 15% discount from the top of the market. His contract is for $17 million a year. The top of the linebacker market is at $20 million a year. And if you're comparing that to the top of the defensive player market overall, I mean, you've got DBs making $30 million now. You've got defensive linemen that are making high 30s, low 40s at this point. So for me, the Eagles got Zack Baun, who was one of the 15 to 20 best defensive players, regardless of position, in 2024, and they got him for $17 million a year. His impact is worth way more than $17 million. So I thought that was a great deal by Howie. They all struck while the iron is hot.
Defensive tackle Thomas Booker for cornerback Jacorean Bennett. Straight up 1-for-1 player trade, with the Eagles preseason slate getting underway on Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll be doing a watch party for that game, by the way, here on the channel. I hope to see all of the legends and real ones there. Bennett is a great athlete at the cornerback position. He measures in currently at 5'11", 195 pounds. He played his high school ball at McGill-Tulane in Mobile, Alabama. He was a community college guy to start off his college career after high school, Hutchinson Community College in 2018-2019, and then he went to Maryland from 2020 through 2022, and he was a 4th-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, 104 overall. While in college at Maryland playing in the Big Ten, Duke's Mayo's Bowl MVP, and a first-team All-JUCO member before he went to Maryland. In the pre-draft, Bennett, this is where I think Howie Roseman is very interested in the player because of the draft pedigree and the physical ability that he has, and the Eagles really value corner. Howie loves building in the trenches, defensively and offensively, of course, and he's talked about how corner is probably his next position of emphasis on defense. So Bennett earned a 9.58 relative athletic score in the pre-draft coming out of Maryland, and he ran a 4.3 flat 40-yard dash. So far in his career, he has struggled to stay healthy. 2021 in Maryland, missed one game against Ohio State due to an unspecified injury, nothing serious there. But his 2023 season as a rookie suffered a hamstring injury after starting the first 4 games of the year. So he gets drafted in the 4th round, and he starts immediately for the Las Vegas Raiders. I know it's the Raiders, dumpster fire organization. They haven't made the playoffs since, 2021? And they haven't won a playoff game since Rich Gannon was their quarterback in the early 2000s. Delaware Blue Hens legend. So Bennett suffered a hamstring injury, but started the first 4 games of the year. I think that's impressive regardless. A rookie 4th rounder starting for a team in the NFL. That hamstring injury then impacted his performance, limited his participation for the remainder of the year. Also dealt with a shoulder injury midway through that year, further limiting his play. Now, he did appear in 14 games. He recorded 32 tackles, 3 PBUs, and he did not have an interception. No TFLs, no quarterback hits. He's a corner. He's not really a run-stopping player who thrives in that role like a Cooper DeJean, who that's why I love him in the slot. Big Fangio likes him at safety as well, because if you use him in that hybrid role, he can make plays around the line of scrimmage. Then last year, Bennett had some more injuries. Sustained a significant shoulder injury on top of the shoulder injury that he had the previous year. That happened in Week 11 against the Dolphins. 2 snaps into the game, ruled out quickly, placed on injured reserve, missed the final 7 weeks of the season. Before that injury, 26 tackles, 15 solo, 8 pass breakups. 8 pass breakups by Week 11, pretty much 10 weeks because he got hurt so early. You see some of the intrigue there with the player, right? He was back in action during OTAs. He's recovered pretty well from that shoulder injury. And I think the Eagles look at this as an opportunity to add a player who can help them in the secondary. Vic Fangio said today that Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson are having very solid training camps, and that competition is really close. But either the Eagles don't love what they're seeing from Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, and or they just want to take a chance on a player who has shown some promise, who has clearly a lot of ability. Keely and Jacorean Bennett now both run 4.3, and they think that they can really maximize the player for a player in Thomas Booker who was not going to see a lot of time at the defensive tackle spot. Value, value, value. That's what Howie Roseman preaches, and I think the Eagles get pretty good value here. Vic Fangio also said, a week or two ago, that it wasn't his decision to sign Adoree Jackson, that there was a reason why the Titans didn't re-sign him after taking him in the first round, a reason why the Giants didn't want to retain him, and that he was going to have to go out and prove it. And he said, I didn't have any say in signing him. That was a Howie move. But when Howie makes a move, I say, okay, let's ride. So there's a couple of different angles that you can take with this trade being made and trying to get to the bottom of why it was made and what the Eagles' thinking might be. Again, they could like Adoree. They could like Keely Ringo. They just want to add a really solid player here. Howie Roseman's never going to pass up on the opportunity to bring talent in, and he loves great value trades. He's very aggressive. Who the Eagles are giving up, Thomas Booker, who is a smaller defensive tackle, but has a really explosive get-off, went to Stanford, really smart guy. He was a surprise guy who really flourished and thrived in training camp last year, going into 2023, ended up making the Eagles 53-man roster. He saw limited time. I thought in the preseason he was really good, and I had him on my final 53-man roster projection. And in the regular season, when he got opportunities, he made a few plays. But look, the Eagles are giving up a player here for a starting caliber corner who, in Thomas Booker, wasn't going to see a lot of time. You have Jalen Carter. You have Moro Ajomo having an incredible camp. You have Jordan Davis. You drafted Ty Robinson. That's 4 players off the jump right there who were going to be ahead of Thomas Booker. So while I like Booker, smaller defensive tackle, explosive get-off, had a good preseason, limited time last year, made some good plays. The Eagles like to use him as they got closer to the red zone because of that explosive get-off. He was able to hop in some running lanes and some gaps and make some plays there. I like this value for Philadelphia because the Eagles are stacked at DT, and I'm always willing to take a chance on a player like Jacorean Bennett. Now, Booker signed with the Texans in 2022 as a UDFA. It's not like he had a lot of pedigree coming into the NFL, unlike Jacorean Bennett, and he was with the Eagles for the last 2 years. More on Bennett here, the RAS, the relative athletic score, 9.58. In the pre-draft, measured in at 5'10", weighed in at 188. Now the Raiders list him at 5'11", 195. You always try to shed some weight to run fast in the 40. And so those numbers could be juiced a little bit, and or he was trying to slim down so that he could run fast. Very important for a corner. And so for RAS, he's not great 5'10", 188. 13 reps of the bench press, 225 pounds. That's solid. What you love, though, this is the athleticism that Howie is seeing. This is the explosiveness, the speed. 40.5-inch vertical. 11 feet plus on the broad jump. A 4.3 flat 40-yard dash. 9.94 20-yard split. 9.96 10-yard split was the score there at 1.45. So 20-yard split, 2.48 seconds. The RAS score 9.94. The 10-yard split 1.45 seconds. And as far as the percentile of that, 9.96. I mean, these are elite athletic testing numbers for Jacorean Bennett. Now, I want to look at where he took his snaps last year, so just bear with me. We'll do it live! An all-pro, Pro Bowl type of camp. Couple of interceptions. He's been the only one who can give a fight to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown because of how great they are. At the other outside corner spot, Adoree Jackson, Keely Ringo, now Jacorean Bennett. In the slot, Cooper DeJean, Mac McWilliams. This gives you depth. This gives you upside. This gives you potential. This gives you a potential starter. And I imagine Bennett, even though he's being traded for this late in the process, might have an opportunity to compete with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. It's going to have a couple weeks of training camp and at least 2 preseason games. We are exactly a month away from the regular season opener on September 4th. Thursday, September 4th against the Dallas Cowboys at home. So, interesting move for Howie Roseman in Philadelphia here.
The Eagles traded defensive tackle Thomas Booker IV to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for cornerback Jacorean Bennett. Bennett was on the sidelines this morning watching his new teammates. Head coach Nick Sirianni says he still hasn't decided if the starters will play at all, but he spoke about what he's looking for in the preseason opener earlier this morning.
You want to see good tackling. You want to see good ball security. You want to see good takeaway ability. You want to see good blocking. You want to see good block destruction. You want to see smart situational football.
The Eagles enter 2025 with a plan to protect their Super Bowl window while adding depth and upside. Given that, the Birds re-signed off-ball linebacker Zack Baun to a 3-year deal in March, locking him through 2027 with a reported total value near $51 million and roughly $34 million guaranteed at signing. Besides, the club exercised the 5th-year option on defensive tackle Jordan Davis on April 30th, only to guarantee about $12.9 million for 2026 and keep a skilled interior lineman under control for the near term. Will these moves be enough to stay on top? In free agency, the Eagles chose targeted short-term additions that fit specific needs. A couple of months back, the team signed former Giants edge rusher Azeez Ojulari to a 1-year deal reported near $4 million to bolster pass rush depth and create competition behind the established starters. In addition, the front office decided to add tight end Kylan Granson on a 1-year contract to widen intermediate receiving options. This move is also expected to provide matchup flexibility across formations. Veteran offensive tackle Kendall Lamb joined on a 1-year pact to serve as swing tackle insurance and to smooth any mid-season line shuffling. Analysts believe that the Eagles leaned heavily on the 2025 NFL Draft to inject youth and competition. The team moved up late in the first round and used the pick on linebacker Jahad Campbell. In round 2, they drafted safety Andrew Makuba to add range and tackle in the back end. Then, the club continued to add developmental pieces in rounds 4 through 6, including Ty Robinson, Mac McWilliams, Smail Mondin, Drew Kendall, Kyle McCord, Myles Hinton, and Cameron Williams. Also, the Eagles signed a broad class of undrafted rookies and priority free agents after the draft. The front office seemingly focused on players who can contribute on special teams and inside sub packages. Needless to say, that approach somehow increases roster flexibility during the 90 to 53 cutdown. Additionally, it preserves short-term options to handle injuries during the season. GM Howie Roseman used trades to rebuild depth across the roster in practical ways. That is why they traded safety CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Houston Texans. Notably, this deal brought guard Kenyon Green to town and included a draft pick swap to improve offensive line options. Then, the Eagles traded defensive tackle Thomas Booker to the Las Vegas Raiders for cornerback Jacorean Bennett. He's a 2023 fourth-round pick who has immediate camp competition, translating metrics at cornerback. Taken together, these moves talk about a front office strategy which preserves the championship core while adding low-risk, high-upside pieces. Re-signing Zack Baun kept continuity in a linebacker group that played a major role in the championship season. Moreover, it reportedly prevented a market scramble that could have disrupted unit chemistry. Likewise, exercising Jordan Davis's 5th year secures a premium interior defender and limits near-term exposure. Now, talking about short-term veteran signings like Ojulari, Granson, and Kendall Lamb. These may provide plug-and-play options without long-term cap strain. Insiders claim that such a construction leaves adequate room to chase a mid-season upgrade. Most notably, the Bennett trade fortifies a secondary that still searches for clear depth behind established starters. Bennett's tape and metrics suggest he can win contested reps, reduce targets allowed, and ease pressure on veteran cornerbacks during heavy workloads. Also, late-round picks and undrafted additions create a deeper practice group and a larger pool of situational options. Those can be elevated without pushing the front office into rash moves. So, yes, the Eagles did not pursue headline splashes in 2025. Instead, they chose to protect core starters, add experienced short-term help, upgrade secondary depth via trade, and invest draft capital into defensive versatility. Will this measured approach help the Birds to defend its title? Subscribe and stay tuned. The answer may come sooner than you expect.